You didn't feel it happen, but somewhere in the last few hours, a single hormone quietly handed your body a new set of instructions, and everything you've ever called hunger is downstream of that handoff. Not a mood, not a weakness, a hormone named insulin, stepping back from the wheel. Here's the strange part. Most people go their entire lives responding to this handoff like it's an emergency, reaching for food the second it happens, never once asking what their body was actually about to do next. Because it wasn't about to shut down. It was about to move your money from checking into savings and then, eventually, start spending from savings instead. Think of it that way for a second, because it actually maps almost perfectly. Insulin is the teller deciding where your energy goes. When food comes in, insulin is active, and it routes everything straight into your checking account. Glucose available for spending. Right now, no questions asked. Your body loves this account. It's fast, it's easy, it never makes you dig for anything. The fed window, roughly the first 4 hours after eating, is entirely checking account spending. Nobody thinks of this as a stage because it feels like nothing. You ate, you're satisfied, life continues. But blood sugar peaks fast, usually within the first hour, then drops back down, sometimes overshooting on the way. That's the restlessness. That's the reach for a snack 45 minutes after a meal that should have held you for hours. It's not weakness, it's a hormonal rebound, and it explains something you've probably felt 1,000 times and never questioned. Why always needing fuel feels true even right after eating well. And here's something worth knowing. Your checking account doesn't actually close the second you swallow your last bite. A heavy dinner, especially one loaded with refined carbs, can keep insulin busy processing it for another 2 to 3 hours afterward. So if you're counting your fasting hours from your last bite, you're probably overcounting. The real clock starts once insulin finishes that cleanup, not the moment you put your fork down. Now move into the next stretch, somewhere between 4 and 12 hours, the transition zone. And this is where it gets genuinely interesting. Your checking account is running low, so your liver starts breaking down glycogen, its stored form of sugar, to keep you funded without touching savings yet. And here's what's fascinating. The first real hunger signal you feel here isn't an overdraft alert. It's ghrelin, a hormone released in rhythmic pulses, roughly tied to your normal eating times, not to any actual shortage. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how a hunger wave hits right at your usual lunchtime? Feels intense for 20 minutes, and then just vanishes, even though you didn't eat? That's ghrelin's rhythm expiring, not your account actually hitting zero. Willpower isn't actually what gets you through this stage. Time is. Ride the wave once, and it always breaks. Somewhere past hour 12, you enter the drawdown. Checking is nearly empty, and your body has to start being careful. This is where the mental fog myth falls apart. And here's where it gets genuinely strange in a good way. A 2025 water-only fasting study published in Frontiers in Endocrinology tracked growth hormone through a full day without food and found it rising sharply right around this window. And the effect was steepest in people who started with lower baseline levels, notably more pronounced in women than in men. That detail matters more than it sounds. Growth hormone here isn't chasing bigger muscles. It's standing guard over the muscle you already have, making sure that when your body finally does dip into savings, it pulls from fat and not from you. Most people assume hour 14 should feel foggy and depleted. And if that sounds uncomfortable to hear, it is. A little. Because it contradicts what you'd expect. But what people actually report, and what the physiology backs up, is a kind of settling. Not euphoria, not depletion. Steadiness. Your only job here is to trust that steadiness instead of reading it as a warning light. And then, somewhere past hour 18, something switches. And this is genuinely the hinge point of the whole sequence. Checking is empty. Your body finally opens the savings account for real. Fat gets converted into ketones, a usable fuel for your brain and muscles. And for the first time, fat stops being the backup and becomes the main supply. People describe a second wind here, a sudden lift in focus, and it's not folklore. The brain runs remarkably well on ketones, sometimes preferring them for smooth, stable energy over the sugar spikes and crashes it's used to. And here's the part that actually changes things. Hunger often fades here instead of intensifying because the emergency-style hunger drive was tied to checking account swings, and those swings have essentially stopped. Your fuel supply is now internal, portable, and steady. If this is starting to make sense of things you've felt but never had words for, you're going to want to stay for what comes next, because this is where it goes even deeper. This is where your cells stop just coasting and start actively cleaning house. Somewhere around the 16 to 24-hour mark, you cross into what researchers sometimes call the autophagy threshold. And this is where the biology gets almost architectural. Autophagy is your cell's internal cleanup system, literally self-eating in the original Greek, where damaged proteins and worn-out cellular parts get broken down and either recycled into new components or burned for fuel. Think of it as your savings account finally getting audited. Old, expired holdings get cleared out to make room for something usable. For years, this was mostly studied in animals, but a 2025 study in the Journal of Physiology actually measured autophagic activity directly in people undergoing time-restricted eating, and separately, a clinical study tracking a dawn-to-dusk fasting pattern found measurable overexpression of the specific genes that drive this cleanup process, alongside drops in inflammatory markers in the same participants. Growth hormone tends to stay elevated through this window. Insulin sensitivity resets, and something else happens that people don't expect. A real, reported psychological calm. Not everyone describes euphoria, but a striking number of people describe an absence of low-grade anxiety they didn't realize they were carrying. That tracks with what's happening underneath. The constant insulin-driven fluctuations your body rides all day finally go quiet. And here's an honest caveat worth keeping. Because manufactured positivity would cheapen this, human autophagy research is still catching up to what's long been shown in animals, and the exact scale of the effect varies with metabolism, activity, hydration, and what your last meal actually looked like. This isn't a stage to chase for bragging rights. It's a stage to let happen. Push past 24 hours and the cleanup shifts gears entirely. Research on time-restricted and intermittent fasting patterns has repeatedly linked longer windows without food to measurable drops in circulating inflammatory markers, and studies tracking gut microbiota through fasting periods have found shifts toward more favorable bacterial populations alongside signs of a stronger intestinal barrier. Think about what that actually means day to day. A lot of the low-grade discomforts people carry past 40, the stiff knees in the morning, the sluggish afternoon, the heaviness after a big meal, trace back to exactly this kind of background inflammation. It's like a smoke alarm that's been quietly beeping for years, and this window is where your body finally walks over and silences it. And then, past 48 hours, moving into deep adaptation, the stage that demands the most respect, not bravado. This is also where one of the more specific findings in fasting research shows up. Work out of the University of Southern California, led by researcher Walter Longo, and published in the journal Cell Stem Cell, traced the mechanism directly. Prolonged fasting was found to lower circulating IGF-1 and reduce a signaling enzyme called pKa inside blood-forming stem cells, and that combination appeared to flip those stem cells from a dormant state into active self-renewal, regenerating fresh immune cells once eating resumed. The clinical portion of that research was conducted in chemotherapy patients, a specific, supervised context, not a casual weekend experiment. And if you ever do find yourself coming out of a stretch this long, how you reopen that checking account matters. Going straight for something heavy and processed after 2 quiet days is exactly when a blood sugar spike hits hardest. Something small and gentle first, a broth, a soft cooked egg, then giving it an hour before a full meal is what lets the account reopen smoothly instead of getting overwhelmed. But, and this matters just as much, this is also where real risk enters the conversation honestly. Electrolyte imbalances become a genuine concern here. Extended fasting beyond 48 hours isn't something to attempt casually, and it's not appropriate for people with certain medical conditions, people on specific medications, or without real guidance. I'm not going to pretend every stage is equally safe for everyone to explore alone. because that would be dishonest. And dishonesty is exactly what erodes trust in content like this. Deep adaptation is real. It's studied, and it's also the stage where your only job shifts from don't interrupt the process to know your own limits and respect them. Here's what ties all of this together, and it's the thing I actually want you to walk away with. None of these stages are your body malfunctioning. None of them are your body failing you or punishing you for skipping a meal. Every single one. The insulin dip in hour 1, the ghrelin wave in hour 6, the steadying in hour 14, the switch at hour 18, the cleanup crossing hour 20, the deep caution past hour 48 is a program your body already knows how to run, built over a timeline that had far more hours without food than with it. And none of this works as a one-time stunt. The real value shows up when checking and savings open and close around roughly the same hours each day. A body that gets fed at 6 one morning, skips breakfast the next, then snacks at midnight on Friday isn't running this sequence cleanly. It's just confused, the way you'd feel crossing time zones every few days. Pick a rhythm your life can actually hold and let it repeat. That consistency is what tells your body it's safe to run the full program instead of bracing for the next surprise. You didn't design this system. You inherited it, fully built, fully tested, running quietly underneath every single day of your life, whether you've ever fasted on purpose or not. The fog you feared was never really fog. The hunger you fought was never really an emergency. And the clarity so many people report isn't a fluke. It's what happens when a very old, very capable system finally gets the chance to run its full sequence instead of being interrupted every 4 hours. So here's what I actually want to know from you. What's the longest stretch you've ever gone without eating, on purpose or not? And what did you notice in your own body during it? The fog, the clarity, the wave that came and went? Tell me in the comments, because I read everyone, and I'm genuinely curious which stage you've already lived through without knowing its name.